Hey guys, D'Angelo here from Practice Biopsy. I've got a great guest with me today. This is Micah from Dynamax Sensors, and he is kind of an expert on sensors. And X-ray sensors are a really integral part to our dental offices. But when it comes to the process of like shopping around, deciding which sensors to buy, and knowing how to take care of your sensor, what to do if your sensor starts to break or give you funny images, we could always learn more. So today, Mike is going to talk with us, and it's not a pitch for Dynamax or anything in terms of that. We're just going to talk about the fundamentals of sensors in general and things to keep in mind when we're shopping around for sensors. Micah, can you just give a little introduction of yourself and your history with Dynamax?
Yep. So I have been with Dynamax for about 5.5 years now. I love the company I work for. We do a lot of really good things with our sensor, our integration, our software. I run the department that takes care of all of what are called our trials. So people that want to try out our sensor, I'm the one that kind of runs that department, gets the guys underneath me to help you guys get all your stuff installed, get your image looking the way you want it, kind of make sure that you guys understand and are moving forward with the sensor and our software the way you want to do it.
Nice. So when we're looking around for sensors, kind of the thing the typical dentist is going to start with is price, because that's the thing we know. We know how much it costs. What's the going rate now? Because I bought my sensors like 5 years ago. What's the going rate now in the sensor industry, like for a range? Like what's like the lower range of price we're going to see for a sensor? What's the higher range of price we're going to see for a sensor, just from any company that sells them?
Okay, so the range that we typically see is going to be from around 4,000, to around $10,000. So depending on who you go with, excuse me, and what you're kind of looking into. Most just flat rate sensors, if you're just buying a sensor itself with no other product, you're going to be looking at around $4,000 to $10,000. So there is a very large range of price that you can find in the industry to get a sensor.
What do you think is like the biggest difference in that cost? That's a pretty big swing from one end to the other.
Truthfully, from what I've noticed and what I feel like a lot of doctors have told me when I've talked with them and tried to find that out myself, is that a lot of that has to do with the name. Obviously, the big names that have been around for a long time, they don't offer anything that's any different than what anybody else offers in most cases, right? You have a sensor, it receives radiation, it throws the image back into the software, you diagnose off of that. So yes, there's warranties and all of that stuff that vary. So that's one of the other things that when you're looking to purchase a sensor is that you want to find out all that other stuff, not just the cost of it up front right then and there, but you're going to want to look into the costs of what does it cost to maintain it? How long do they usually last? Is there a warranty? What the image quality looks like? How open the sensor is, meaning what softwares it can go into and how it goes into there. So those are kind of the things you dive a little deeper and find out that sensor, which sensor works for you and what's going to make it work best. And so those are what give you those different costs. From my experience is the name brands are going to be kind of the higher name brands are going to be more expensive, even though they don't really do much more than what you do with the lower name brands.
Can you talk about something you mentioned, an open sensor versus a sensor that's not open?
So an open sensor, what that means to me, or what we refer to as an open sensor, is a sensor that will work into other softwares more natively. Obviously, a lot of softwares out there accept what's called the Twain. A Twain is just a piece of software that allows for a sensor to capture into that software, but a lot of times that's really restricted so that it only works a specific way, which in most softwares out there, they don't want it to work as good as the sensor that they sell or push. So it usually has quite a few restrictions. Our sensor, what we are shooting for is to have a sensor that can work into every software out there openly, meaning it captures as it should in the software. So there's no Twain required. We have that in a lot of softwares now where we don't need a Twain. We can capture into the software as it should and as it's planned to, saving you time, effort, not having to rely on the Twain, and gets you the full functionality of the software. So an open sensor just means it works how the sensor should inside of that software.
Can you repeat one more time for the people listening and for myself? What exactly is a Twain or a Twain driver?
So a Twain driver is just a piece of software that allows a sensor or a device. There's printers that have Twain devices. There's cameras that have Twain devices, sensors, a lot of people that work in the dental industry will know a Twain based off of their pano. A lot of pano machines use Twain. So it's just a piece of software that allows your device to communicate with a software that in most cases, it typically wasn't created to work in directly, but that it is able to work in through a Twain, so it can capture and communicate properly with that software.
Nice. What are some other things that you think a dentist should consider when buying a sensor besides the price?
So I'd say from price, it goes to image quality, functionality, and then you have, because to me, warranty and that kind of stuff, price and warranty are all kind of bundled together to me. So with our products, usually it comes with a manufacturer warranty, just like all sensors usually have a manufacturer warranty. That all comes with a specific price. So usually the next things are going to be image quality and then functionality of how it's going to work, what the image is going to look like. And then probably the last one I'd say is kind of how long they usually last. Those are kind of the questions that we hear most often is how long do they usually last? How well does it work in my software? Image quality. And then obviously, like we said, number one is price.
For image quality, is there like a certain specification or feature on the sensor that would help us determine that, or we just eyeball it and say, hey, that looks good?
Everybody's eyeballing it. Yeah. So everybody's eye is different. So you can have one doctor who loves their image super sharp and have a ton of contrast. And you have another doctor who likes it less sharp because they feel like when it's too sharp, it's too grainy. And then they like it a little bit more, what I call mono gray, which means just less contrast and still a diagnostic image. So it really does depend, from my experience, on what you're used to. So what you've been using determines on what you consider a good image quality. And so that's a benefit of using a sensor that's more open, is because then it does allow for you to get that image more closely resembling what you know and what you're used to, so you can continue moving forward without having to try and learn something new.
And I guess that probably ties into the free trial that you guys have being even more beneficial, because like you can actually try it out and take a look and see if you like it before you purchase it.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of people take advantage of that trial and they love it. It's a great sensor. So we do very, very well with our trials.
Something else you talked about is like, dentists will have as a top concern, how long does it last? How long is this sensor going to last me? Is there anything that we as dentists can do to extend the lifespan of these sensors and help them to last longer? Is there anything that we can do? Other than not dropping it on the floor and stepping on it.
Those are, honestly, that's the number one killer, is dropping it or stepping on it, things like that. So what we always recommend to prolong the life of a sensor, and every sensor is slightly different. So we recommend using an extension cable, just a USB 2.0 extension cable. You can buy them at pretty much any electronic store. What this does is this allows you to plug the sensor into the extension cable and then have the extension cable plug into the computer or to your hub, wherever you have it. And it does two things. One, it puts all of the wear and tear of unplugging and plugging in that device onto that $2, $3, $4 extension cable that once it's worn out, you throw it away and get a new one. That will protect the USB part of the actual cable on the sensor so that it doesn't wear out as quickly. Another option that you have is, we always recommend for offices that are having issues with sensors getting broken all the time, try and use different verbiage. Instead of using the word bite down, use the word gently close, or something in that manner, so that people don't chomp down on that sensor. You can also use, different ways of kind of blocking the mouth so it can't fully occlude on the sensor. One doctor said that they use cotton swabs, the adult size cotton rolls, kind of put it back in the very back of the jaw so that they can't fully occlude, and then that prevents the sensor from getting fully bitten down on. We always say if you're scared to put your finger in that mouth because they're going to bite your finger, why are you putting your sensor in that mouth? So just being really cautious, plugging it in, unplugging it, putting it away, storing it in a safe place. Another issue that we found that quite often is what damages the sensor is somebody goes to put it like in a drawer, and when they're shutting the drawer, it smashes the USB side of it, or it kinks the cable or something like that. So we normally recommend trying to find somewhere that you can safely hang the sensor where it's not getting kinked or bent or jammed into some small little, area.
Nice. As far as damage, like when people send them in or give you guys phone calls about damage, is it more common that the sensor itself is damaged, the cable is damaged, or the USB plug is damaged? What's like the most common damage point for a sensor?
The most common is going to be the sensor itself.
Okay, from like dropping, stepping,
So,
biting.
Correct, you got it. So usually those are the three big ones you just mentioned, and it's usually the sensor gets, damaged by that. There is some wire issues obviously out there, but a lot of times it's going to be where the wire's plugged in. Probably the rarest of those is going to be where they damage the actual USB part. Besides, like I said, if it gets worn down, that's
Wear
a
and tear.
different thing. But if it's actually being damaged by them stepping on it, usually it's going to be the sensor.
Okay. If we ever notice, like the image that we get the image that we get from the sensor starts to go bad, like there's an artifact or like a black circle or spot on the image, what causes that?
So that's actually called delamination. So what delamination is where some of the inside components of the sensor module are starting to peel away. And so where it's peeling away, that's where you're starting to see that black kind of blob or that black circle you're talking about. Most cases, it will start out fairly small and then it can spread. So usually what we recommend as soon as you see that starting, contact us immediately so we can try and see what we can do to help you guys get that fixed, replaced, whatever it is, because usually over time it will just continue to grow and get larger, because once it starts, nothing is going to prevent it from just continuing to peel up.
Okay. So like let's kind of talk through the repair process. So like if there's something wrong in the actual sensor, like the delamination, I guess I'm trying to get to what's fixable and what's not. And for the things that are fixable, what does that entail you guys doing? What's the process involved? Like if I notice that spot on mine and it's like, oh man, it's starting to delaminate. I send it to you. How do we determine if it's fixable or not? And what do you actually do to fix it?
Okay, so most companies don't usually fix sensors. Usually it's a third-party company that will fix sensors. From our experience, in most cases, it's a very high risk to try and have your sensor fixed. So to go back and answer your question, usually if the module inside of the housing, so the plastic part that surrounds the outside of the sensor, the module inside of that, if that gets too damaged where the sensor does not work, usually the sensor is going to be bad. You can't really go in and fix or replace components of that module. Usually you'll end up using what we have is a product replacement plan where you get a very discounted price on a brand new sensor so that it covers, that cost. So some people have tried to go out and get them fixed, and there has been instances that it works. But in most cases, you're going to end up spending your money and finding out there's nothing you can do. So if the module inside is damaged, you're going to want to contact the sensor company immediately so that they can try and help you best they can. A wire can be repaired. So the way we do our wire repairs is a little different than some. Some companies actually send you a wire and have you do it all yourself. The way we do it is we have you guys send it in, we get it to our factory, and our factory actually goes in, takes it apart, puts the sensor back together with the new wire, all reconnected, and you're back up and running.
How do you know if you have a wire problem It's not going to change the image. Is it just not going to recognize the sensor when you plug it in?
Usually, yes. Usually a sensor is going to work
Mhm.
or it's not going to work. There's not much in between. Like you said, yes, you can get delamination. Yes, you can get some, artifacts, little things like that. But usually the sensor is going to take an image, whether it's a good image or a bad image. That's not really the point. It's either going to take one or not. There's not really much in between. So usually it works or it doesn't. In a wire repair, yes, if the wire is going bad, usually it will either work, and then if you move it or shake it or kind of adjust it, then it kicks itself out because it kind of shorts the wire, different things like that, or it loses power to the sensor just for that split second. So the software doesn't recognize it. Those are usually a sign of a wire issue, is that it works until you move it.
Okay. And then I'm guessing with a USB issue, it's going to be one of those where like you unplug it, you plug it back in and you wiggle it, and then all of a sudden it works. And then sometimes it doesn't. That's probably the USB going bad. Is that something
You
that's
got it.
repairable if the USB end goes bad? You just put like a new,
Usually it's going to be the whole wire with us.
the whole wire.
Other
Okay.
companies, from my experience, what I've seen is most other companies replace the entire wire because the wire is all connected to the USB and it's all one unit.
Mm-hmm.
So usually that's how it's done. One other trick that you can do I just thought is to prolong your sensor is using what are called powered hubs. Powered hubs allow you to use to plug that into you plug your sensor into that rather than into the computer. And so you don't wear out the USB plug on your computer. So that way, once they get loose, like you were talking about, you get a new powered hub, plug it into that one, and it's now tight again because it has all of its new connections.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That's a good idea, actually. I already did the USB wire attachment on my sensors, but I didn't have a hub on the actual computer. What is speaking of all these problems that could occur, what is a good type of warranty to look for when we're shopping around, like for a sensor? What type of warranties, like in terms of amount of time, like duration, is like reasonable?
So most companies usually have around a 2-year warranty.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is a 3-year manufacturer warranty.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep in mind a manufacturer warranty is going to be the same for most sensors out there. It's a manufacturer defect causing a problem. If somebody bites down and chomps through that sensor, that's not a manufacturer warranty, no matter how obvious or how much they try and tell you it is. It's not going to be covered by the manufacturer warranty. A manufacturer warranty that's 3 years, you should get a lot of use out of that sensor. And if anything happens within those 3 years, it's going to be replaced completely for free, no questions asked.
Okay. All right. I like to keep these between 20 and 30 minutes, and time's fine. I believe that we're already in that range. One last question. With the prices of sensors, with how the market is from your guys' point of view, in the next several years, do you see the prices of sensors staying about the same, going down, or going up? Like just up with inflation, or down because it's an older technology, or staying about the same because there's a balance?
Right now, with sensor shortages, there's a lot of companies that are having sensor shortages because of all the manufacturers with computer components, chips, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So once that's fixed, if that gets fixed pretty quickly, I myself think that sensor prices will probably continue to go down. They've already trended in that path, where some of the ones that you could never get for less than $10,000, no matter what you were buying, you can now sometimes get on a promotion for $8,000 or something like that. So the trend that I've seen since I've been here is the prices are starting to slowly go down a little bit. But again, because of how the world is right now with some of the things that were caused by just unforeseen events, such as COVID, some of those things with the supply and demand shortages, things like that, that could prolong that or make things go up shortly. But I think over the long term, you're going to start to see them go down.
Nice. All right, Micah, I just want to say thank you for your time today. I know you've had a busy day, so thanks for taking the time to do this. To everybody listening, this is going to be posted a couple places. You'll find it on social media, you'll find it on YouTube, and you'll find it on practicebiopsy.com, the blog. All right. Any parting things you want to say, Micah?
No, but I appreciate you having me on, man. It was great. It was a pleasure doing this. And you guys have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at Dynamax. We have a lot of really knowledgeable people that can answer any questions you guys have.
All right, cool. Thanks, Micah.
Thanks, man. Have a great day.